Hello and welcome to the Source One Countdown to ISM 2016 podcast series. Consider us your on-the-go source for the latest insights in the procurement, supply management, and strategic sourcing industry as we get ready for the premier supply chain event of the year.
Last time on the Countdown to ISM 2016, we talked to Naseem Malik of MRA Global Sourcing and Conference Leadership Committee member about the people track of ISM 2016, which aims to evolve and optimize procurement's human capital strategies. Today, we discuss the Exec IN subconference and Naseem's role as moderator for the exclusive panel of CPOs. So you're also the chair for the exclusive panel of CPOs during the Exec IN conference, which Source One is sponsoring this year. How did that panel come into being?
So yeah, this is a panel that I've been moderating myself over the past 3 years now. So this will be the third year, and it was also at the behest of the ISM. They invited me to come join their Exec In. It used to be called CSSL, Center for Strategic Sourcing. Now it's Exec In, co-sponsored by Source One and ISM. And the purpose of this executive symposium is it's embedded within the annual conference, but it's for CPOs and their direct reports. So it's by invitation.
Right.
It's exclusively for the leadership as the agenda is prepared for them on issues that are important to them that they have told us that they want to hear more about. So there's some external people, there's some technology gurus in there, and then there's, from a practitioner perspective, we like to have a panel in which they share some ideas. So our first one we did a couple years back, it was about CPO tenure. It was in Vegas. So it was about how to beat the odds, right? Why some CPOs last longer than others.
Right.
So they shared a lot of what led to the tenure coming down from 5 to 4 to now less than 3 years. Is it that the companies don't value them? Is it all just M&A?
Yeah.
Is it just a transformation in which they work themselves out of a job?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to hear those perspectives. We had 4 CPOs, medical device, CPG company there, and then we had from the utility and electric background as well. So that was an excellent one. After the success of that, we did it again for year 2 last year. Last year was about the CPO procurement. It was a procurement reality check.
Right.
So now that they're seated at the table, are they truly adding value? So we talked about a lot of different stats in which a lot of the C-suite was still wary of the value that they're adding.
Yeah.
And so we got the panelists. Once again, this time we had 4 CPOs from apparel, CPG, telecom, pharma, and medical device. And they all shared their perspectives on things that were important to them. So we talked about the savings and how you do that in a way that you partner with your CFOs and truly help them add value there. On the talent side, how one CPO said that they're known as talent incubators within the organization, because a lot of people are taken from procurement and put into other functions. So that's a testament to the value they provide by bringing in top talent.
Right.
And the other one talked about on the risk side, how anytime there are any supplier issues, whether it's sustainability, environmental, or anything related to tier 2 suppliers overseas, the buck stops with sourcing and supply chain there, because they're at the front line to make sure that nothing negatively affects them that will then get ripped on social media. So excellent discussion there. And what we're doing this year we're talking about how, once again, based on our theme of Indy, we're talking about CPO power and how they continue to drive success by aligning with their stakeholders to achieve success. So that's what our topic's going to be this year, our description.
Sure. So the themes that you're going to be tackling within the panel, do those topics come from the panelists themselves? Do they come beforehand and then you just go forward with it, or how do the topics come about?
So we come up with a general description that we share with them, that this is what we want to talk about, and then we will get together. We'll have a couple of prep calls, and we'll have an outline of 3 or 4 main themes and trends or important things that from year to year that's on their mind that they find important.
Yeah.
So we'll have those, and then we'll from there have a few questions and insights that we'll share with the panel as we start our discussion.
So they're not coming into canned, prefabricated stuff. They're actually getting to decide what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So now they're they'll know beforehand. So just with the general framework, but not the specific questions, because the
We want
key
to keep
is
it lively.
exactly. We want to keep it free flowing. We want to keep it as less scripted as possible.
Yeah.
And it makes for really good interaction with the audience. So we did a 90-minute last year. I think it's going to be back to 60 this year, in which they'll talk for 35, 40 minutes, and then we'll have 15, 20 minutes of just audience question. And there's a lot of great Q&A from there.
Great. So what have you learned in moderating the panel?
To do as little as possible when the actual panel starts.
Yeah.
So your goal is, as a successful moderator, is to lay the framework, make the introductions, and then make sure they're talking. Make sure not everybody's participating, and that nobody is monopolizing any certain topic or time or cutting other people off. So we've got to make sure the free flow, the Q&A, participation, and that we cover all the important topics that we wanted to cover.
How responsive is the audience to the panel?
Oh, they love it. We've gotten very consistent high ratings and rankings on this one, saying they like this particular piece of the Exec In agenda, because it gives them an opportunity to hear from their peers and to share ideas, and sometimes even challenge them on why they don't agree with something, or that they've done something different, and maybe they can give it a try as well. So.
Right. So you don't have to pull teeth to get questions to the panel.
No, not at all.
No, yeah. No. What has surprised you in moderating the panel over the years?
The interaction, actually. I thought initially that we should probably just have these guys talk amongst themselves, the CPOs, and they all have a wealth of knowledge just between them. But what's been interesting is how after a certain amount of time you can tell that the audience is chomping at the bits to want to engage and ask questions. Sometimes they'll just interrupt and raise their hand, and we'll ask the question. Sure. But the ability for them to actually have that back and forth and bounce stuff off, or rapid fire questions, answers, challenges, is what's interesting, because that shows you that they're engaged, they enjoy it, and frankly, it is more involved than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Okay. So what has not surprised you?
That the CPOs like to talk.
Yeah.
They all love the sound of their voices, as they should, because they do have a lot of good things to share. So that hasn't surprised me, that they've been willing to share their knowledge. They've been willing to talk about some of the mistakes that they've made and what they've learned from them. So it's good to see them be candid about that too.
So what are the audience members going to be hearing from this panel this year?
So we're working on finalizing that. I think they're going to hear a lot of different perspectives. We have, so far, somebody coming from a global beverage company. We have a global CPG company, Fortune 500 companies, a global real estate company, and then we have a big pharma CPO. So it's going to be a blast, because there will be very diverse background in manufacturing services, a lot of different industries, and we will hear from them on how they have either transformed their organizations or took them apart or took them to a new direction, and the factors that they're dealing with, not only internally but externally, as headwinds continue to stay abound when it comes to economic uncertainty and what the future may bring.
So when you're moderating and you've decided beforehand what you're going to be discussing, how spontaneous or freeform do you get in terms of coming up with questions on the fly that naturally lead there? Or do you not, as a rule, want to surprise your panel too much?
We have, as I mentioned, we have a pretty good framework, so I don't want to spring anything on them midstream as we do this. But I do let them know that if there is something that comes up that catches my attention that we hadn't delved into, I may want to probe a little bit further. But another important thing I learned doing this the past couple of years, and feedback I've gotten from others, is I've also encouraged the panelists to ask questions amongst themselves. For instance, if Susan brought up a point, John shouldn't be afraid to say, "Susan, tell me more," or Susan shouldn't be like, "Brenda, I didn't understand that," or "I don't agree with it.
Right.
Here's why." So I've asked them that it's okay to have that dialogue amongst yourselves as well too, because that's part of the exchange. It's part of what the audience is hearing and learning and benefiting from too. So it's not as much as I would like yet, but we will stress that again this year to make sure they have that opportunity.
So what are you personally expecting to find out, learn from the panel?
I'm expecting to see. Well, in terms of, I'm interested to see how the interaction will be because they have such diverse backgrounds.
Yeah.
All very accomplished backgrounds. But I'm really excited to hear about how they're tackling their challenges in similar and dissimilar fashions, while working in sometimes similar types of industries backgrounds, and then completely different backgrounds. So, what the global REIT company may be doing. You wouldn't expect a global pharma company to be doing, but you'd be surprised. Or what a service company A and service company B that should be consistent are taking two completely different approaches. So that never ceases to amaze me. I'm looking forward to learning more about some of the exciting things that they're doing on innovation side, talent side, risk management side, and then growth side, how they're helping their companies grow.
So tying back to your being the co-chair of the People Track, what's the overlap between the CPO panel and the Exec IN and your focal point for the People Track? I mean, are you looking to cover all bases during the panel? Do you tend to favor the People Track just because it naturally fits in with your specialty, or how do you approach that?
With the People Track and the CPO panel, or just the Exec in general?
Either.
So the People Track is supposed to be just a broader. It's a broader topic encompassing. We wanted different aspects of leadership or different types of experiences, from careers in transition to fast trackers to the senior leaders. They're talking about what's made them successful, to the contingent and permanent workforce trends, to specific insight from CPOs in a networking session. But that's supposed to run the whole gamut. The specific CPO panel at the Exec IN is more of a snapshot of what a lot of these executives are doing. It's more concentrated into 2-3 topics, themes, and a lot of rapid-fire Q&A discussion, sometimes crossfire with the audience and within the panel, because it's a limited time, but a broader, more seasoned and experienced audience. So it makes it rich and robust, but it's limited time. So
okay. So are you all set for ISM, or how's your prep going?
Oh, prep's fine. It's always lots to do. There's always a lot of last minute changes, so being flexible is key. But really looking forward to it. We have so far registration is trending higher than it has the past couple of years.
Oh, great!
So we're excited about that, and we look forward to having a very fruitful and informative and educational conference.
So when does planning for ISM 2017 start?
2 weeks after this conference. So I've been invited already. It's on my calendar. First week of June, we're down in Orlando, the conference leadership committee, to help start planning the next year's conference. So 2017 will be Orlando.
Oh, Orlando. Okay, great. All right, Naseem, I think that's all the time. We got any final remarks on ISM?
No, thank you for this opportunity. Look forward to having people attend. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Naseem.
Thanks for tuning in to the Source One Countdown to ISM 2016 podcast series. Remember to visit us online at www.sourceoneinc.com. For more insights from our strategic sourcing and procurement experts, check out our blog at www.strategicsorcerer.com. Want to provide us feedback? Have an idea for another podcast? Let us know by emailing us at prrequest@sourceoneinc.com. Thanks for listening.